Hello students, welcome back. This is the second part of the video on the poem Sailing to Byzantium by William Butler Yeats. So let's get started right away. In this video, we would be having a critical analysis of this poem. In the analysis, we would have a look at the structure, the tone and style, thematic contrasts, the symbols, symbolic contrast, the literary analysis, the poetic devices, a comparison of the two Byzantium poems, and the important questions. So let's look at the structure first. There are 4 stanzas in this poem. Two major divisions which divide the poem precisely in half. The first 2 stanzas present art as inanimate. The second 2 present the art as animate. In the first half of the poem, the images are stated as passive objects. They are twice called monuments. They are merely objects of contemplation. They may be neglected or studied, visited or not visited. Whereas in stanza 3 and 4, they are treated as gods, which can be prayed to for life or death, as being capable of motion from sphere to sphere, as instructors of the soul, as sages possessed of wisdom, and the curious shift in the manner of consideration is indicated by the subtle phrasing of the first 2 lines of the stanza 3, which is, I quote, "O sages, standing in God's holy fire, as in the gold mosaic of a wall." So, in stanza 1, a mortal bird of nature amid natural trees sings a brief song of sensible joy in praise of mortal things, of whatever is begotten, born, and dies. In stanza 4, an immortal and artificial bird set in an artificial tree sings an eternal song of spiritual joy in praise of eternal things, of what is past or passing or to come. And similarly, a tattered coat upon a stick, incapable of motion, speech, sense of knowledge, whereas in stanza 3, what had appeared to be inanimate artifice is found to possess a soul, and hence to be capable of all these. Within these 2 halves, further divisions can be found, coinciding with the stanzic divisions. Stanza 1 presents a rejection of passion. Stanza 2 presents an acceptance of intellect, then turning on the realization that art, if ensouled. Stanza 3 presents a rejection of the corruptible embodiment, and stanza 4 an acceptance of the incorruptible. There is an alternation thus of negative and affirmative. Out of passion into intellection, out of corruption into permanence. Passion must be condemned before the intellect can be esteemed. The intellect must operate before the images can be known to be ensouled. The realization that the images are ensouled precedes the realization that the body may be dispensed with, and the reincarnation of the soul in some changeless medium can be recognized as a possibility only through the prior recognition that the flesh is not the necessary matter of the soul. In terms of style, the poem is notable for its fluid lyricism, rhythmic control, and vividness of imagery. Vintage Yeats, in fact. The first stanza contains a beautiful five-line paean to the creative process of nature. The beauty of the lines does not depend only on their concrete descriptive or visual images, but emerges from the verbal blending of what the eye sees with what the imagination makes of it. Though the rhyme scheme is very demanding and the musicality of the lines readily apparent, at no point is the task of representing experience sacrificed for mere poetic effect. This represents literary integrity and skill of a rare and very high order. If we see the tone as I've mentioned, it is of rejection, excitement, and elation. Thematic contrast, if we have a look at that, Yeats was, like most of us, a person of inner contradictions, and the struggle between which did much to shape his life and art. Several pairs of contradictory factors are present in this poem. Prominent among them are youth contrasted with age, virility with impotence, nature with art, cultural health with decadence, the modern world with ancient Byzantium, the natural with the mechanical, and body with soul. The Byzantium symbol is far from simple and has little in common with what most people call piety. Nor is there anything to suggest that the state it represents is any more permanent than other phases of the soul's journey. It cannot therefore be equated with nirvana or the beatific vision. To use the language of orthodoxy, Yeats's experience is that of the ecstatic, not that of the true mystic. Byzantium, the theme of what are perhaps Yeats's two greatest and most complex poems, is a coalescence of ideas derived from actual Byzantine art and from the reading of history. Byzantine architecture suggests to him that of the sacred city of the Apocalypse of St. John. All the images used to picture the sensual world evoke both the power of enchantment and the pathetic transience of the life within it. The young lovers, the singing birds that must die soon, the fish swarming in the waters, all make a music in praise of fertility and natural mortality, but the only part of the life cycle now applicable to the old man is death. There is something else also valuable, another world of intelligence, spirituality, and art suggested by the phrase monuments of unaging intellect. This new idea, brought in at the very close of the first stanza, is developed in the subsequent stanzas. The idea is developed in images as intense and poignant as those of the sensual world. Two sets of symbols are now played against one another in a very effective manner. Thus, the second stanza speaks of the soul's music that must be learned instead of the sensual music of the first stanza. Byzantium, the symbol of the ideal aesthetic, transformed existence he longs for. Byzantium, the merging of Western and Eastern churches and religious traditions. So those are the major symbols. The symbolic contrast. The interplay of the two opposing sets of symbols is intricate and rich, despite the shortness of the poem. For instance, there are old men in Byzantium too. The sage is standing in God's holy fire, to whom the speaker appeals. Flesh and blood birds, those dying generations of the first stanza. There are golden birds in Byzantium. The poet wishes to be one of these. There he will have no age. Past, present, and future are all one there. The poem never moves away from its central directing symbol. It brings us to view life in terms of music. It is written in ottava rima, a verse form which originated in medieval Italy. Each stanza consisting of 8 pentameter lines rhyming A, B, A, B, A, B, C, C. It was used by known writers, White, Spenser, Shelley, Keats, Byron, among others, all used it. Byron used it to great advantage in his Don Juan. Yeats employed it several times, usually in his graver and more meditative poems, such as Among School Children and The Circle Animals' Desertion. The flexibility of the form offered sufficiently large scope and discipline of structure to meet the exacting demands sailing to Byzantium would make one upon it. And they are in iambic pentameter. You can see here, young, trees, song, seeds, long, dies, neglect, intellect. Those are the poetic devices I could find in these. There is an oxymoron that there wasn't much space. In fact, there are a lot of poetic devices. These are just handful. Metaphor, simile, personification, imagery, allusions, references, alliteration, apostrophes, caesura, enjambment, polysyndeton, repetition. So here we see metaphor. Well, this is the same color. This color and the metaphors are of the same color. Salmon falls, mackerel crowded seas, sensual music, monuments of unaging intellect. Here it is colored pink because it is monuments is also representing personification. But it's also a metaphor. Monuments of unaging intellect. Imagery. In one another's arms, birds in the trees. Those are the imageries. Allusions. Allusions here, that. It's alluding to seemingly to Ireland because Yeats was a citizen of Ireland. However, it could mean any country. That is a symbol or allusion to any other country. There is alliteration here, fish, flesh, fowl, all starting with the consonant alphabet F. Then begotten, born, both of them starting with B. There is a caesura, a pause that gives a kind of a reflection time. So here you have a full stop in the first line. You have a hyphen here and a hyphen here in the third line. That's caesura. An enjambment, jambit. What is an enjambment here? Enjambment is here continuation into the next line. It's a poetic device where a sentence or phrase continues past the end of a line without punctuation. Let's take a look at the second paragraph. Here again, metaphor, this color and this is the same color for metaphor. A tattered coat upon a stick. It's like a scarecrow, a torn coat upon a stick. This is how we make a scarecrow. It's a metaphor for an old man. Personification here, soul is a personification. We have enjambment here, unless, soul. This is a sentence is continuing into the next line here. Reference here is to Byzantium. Imagery, imagine soul clapping its hands and singing. That is the imagery. Alliteration, singing, school, studying. All three words start in the same line starting with the alphabet consonant S. Then we have in the next line monuments, magnificence, both starting with M. In this line we have sail the seas, S and S. So that is the alliteration. Caesura again, comma here, comma here, and semicolon here. So that's a caesura. Polysyndeton, here is the and here is the and. So you know what is a polysyndeton. It is repetition of coordinating conjunctions. It slows the rhythm. It's a pause that forces the reader to reflect. It's a gentle beat or musical rhythm. It builds an emotion slowly. And there is a repetition here also. The word sing, twice it is. It is to emphasize something. Here we have in this apostrophe, direct address here. Here. O sages, so it's addressed to the sages. Alliteration, sages standing, S and S. God's holy fire, it's a metaphor. Singing masters of my soul, it's a metaphor. Artifice of eternity, it's a metaphor. Simile, comparison of sages standing in God's holy fire is compared to gold mosaic of a wall. Imagery of burn in a gyre. Okay, there is enjambment, gather me into, it's continuing, and gather me, the sentence is not finishing here, it's continuing into the next line. Polysyndeton, and another and. Repetition here is in this line, it and it getting repeated. Internal rhyme. Now this is very interesting. Here you have internal rhyme. Come from the holy fire, burn in a gyre. So fire and gyre are internal rhymes. Then there is another poetic device. Once out of nature, I shall never take. So here we have alliteration. Nature and never end. Then in the next line we have another alliteration, from and from, and this is very interesting. The same alphabets and how they have been arranged in a different way. From and from, and there's again this word is repeated here, from. And here it is a personification. What is it? What personification? It's a personification of the golden bird. There is metaphor here about drowsy emperor awake. That's an imagery also. There is a simile here, as, comparing the bird, the form that the goldsmiths make. Grecian goldsmiths, that's alliteration. Gold is a repetition. Off and off is again a repetition. Reference is here to Byzantium. There is an enjambment here. The first line itself, take my bodily form. Plenty of poetic devices in it. Let's do a comparison of the two Byzantium poems. In the tower and the winding stairs, Yeats uses as dominant subjects and symbols the Irish Rising and Civil War, his own Norman Tower, the Byzantium Empire and its mosaics. The Tower, which was a poetry collection in 1928, and The Winding Stairs, another poetry collection in 1933. They both represent the mature late Yeats at this very best. A realist, symbolist, metaphysical poet with a positive, uncanny power over words. The two Byzantium poems distill their meaning into a quintessence, haunting the mind and probing the emotions as no English poet had done since the 17th century. The theme of both poems is the attempt to compensate for old age by moving away from the teeming world of biological growth and change to the timeless world of art and intellect, a world of golden artifacts. The poem Byzantium is parallel to Sailing to Byzantium. Of course, both are parallel poems. In uh, In this, you can say the first stanza is concerned with flesh and blood world that is being left behind, the world of unpurged images. After that opening stanza, the miraculous golden bird, the purgatorial flames, even the spirits crossing the sea are all recalled, but in reverse order to their appearance in the earlier poem. For both the setting and the point of view have been changed completely. Sailing to Byzantium represents the voyage and is written from the point of view of the uninitiated outsider who leaves the material world for the immaterial. Byzantium, on the other hand, is written from the point of view of the initiated individual who watches the uninitiated, unpurged spirits arriving from beyond the gong-tormented sea, which separates Byzantium's reality from the flesh and blood reality of the 20th century world. Byzantium is surprisingly a more kinetic but also a more obscure poem than Sailing to Byzantium. In the former, that is Byzantium, Byzantium is seen as a purgatory. Sailing to Byzantium is a better poem than Byzantium, because in Byzantium, despite its dynamism and excitements, it is more like what Yeats called a text for exposition. It should be grouped with the other poems, which Yeats used for direct expression of the philosophical mythology, which was more elaborately synthesized in a vision. Both the poems can be regarded as incorporating a Neoplatonic vision of life after death. But they also celebrate the work of art as opposed to the work of nature. However, they both deal with the last things. The Yeatsian aesthetic resolves into a final metaphor that reconciles all metaphors. Death and life and death, the dialogue of self and soul, and of art and life, both reach a conclusion. So some questions that it would be nice to prepare if you have watched both the videos properly and carefully. The first one is analyze the theme of aging and art and Sailing to Byzantium. Then we have write a note on the symbols in the poem. Then we have draw a comparison of the two Byzantium poems. And lastly, critically analyze the poem Sailing to Byzantium. So in this video, we did a critical analysis in which we had a look at the structure, the tone and the style, thematic contrast, the symbols, the symbolic contrast, the literary analysis, the poetic devices, a comparison of the two Byzantium poems, and some important questions which would be appropriate as a revision for the two videos that have been made on this by me. With that, we come to the end of our discussion. I hope it was useful for you, and I hope you were able to understand it. In case you have a doubt or a question, you can post it in the comment box. And as I always leave you, I wish you happy learning, and I hope you enjoy watching the videos.